You know, ever since I began reading visual novels, it amazes me how tenfolds better these stories are compared to the movies we've been getting lately. I mean, with all these Disney remakes, and I'm surprised Treasure Planet hasn't gotten a remake yet, but let's be honest, Disney would probably find a way to destroy that as well. And most people don't even know this movie had a game, probably the best one during its time. Probably puts most of our games now to shame.
Husband, get us out of here!
But this week I decided to pull some of my time to treasure Adastra. Having written the review 3 years ago, I felt like it should have a quick review. Adastra is a story about a human named Marco, studying aboard a trip to Rome. He'll later be kidnapped from his room to find out that the abduction was set up by the parents that have sent Amicus to kidnap Marco in his spaceship, in which Marco's goal is to help Amicus become Emperor of Adastra in order to return home and play the part of the Empire. The visual novel is a political story with romance that is well thought out. Amicus, as some of you may know, is a wolf aged 23, 7 feet tall, 300 pounds, and he's very outgoing, overwhelmingly positive, and blunt to just about everything, which easily catches him off guard during a dilemma. During the kidnapping, Amicus will explain the reasoning of the parents, who are the authorities, which I like to call level 3s. Then, level 2s are what Amicus species are, a disciple or follower, which are in charge of finding more intelligent species to teach their culture. Those species that they teach are called children or level 1, but level 2 has no clue what the reasoning is for level 3's work, but will compete with other level 2s like battling nations, though humans are not part of the galaxy system because they do not know the knowledge of their first species contact. Arriving at Adastra, Amicus introduces your roles as a temporary pet by washing his body and combing his fur, while playing the role of the servant. Though living with Amicus, you play dumb within the Empire to seem as if you're a failed uplift with little to no intelligence, since pulling out your gun or phone might be a little too much for the... But really, it just comes down to the person just needing to like Amicus and win the hearts of the wolves for the more ideal. Let's go over some of the main characters. Alexios is a spy who is an ambassador to Adastra, arriving before the stretch drive depletion and supposedly missed his last chance to arrive back home. Cato is the advisor emperor, and being the acting emperor, he is able to call off the investigation of Amicus's father's death, which is Cato's best friend, and he blames it on the Chemia doing. Did I say it? Chemia. He is not too keen on the idea of the alliance with the Chemia, nor does anyone know his clear goal other than to take over the throne and cause chaos. It's very clear to everyone that he is the murderer, and everyone's keeping quiet about the situation until they furthermore find evidence to take him down. This is where Macro's job comes into play, getting Alex to get the information and finish the job assassinating Cato. Virginia is the eldest daughter of the royal family who will be taking a prestigious position within the Empire. Neferu is a charming and well-bred jackal. He's the second of the 4 children born to the Pharaoh of Chemia family, with an older brother and 2 younger sisters. He was sent to Adastra to cultivate an alliance between the wolves and the jackals, and still remains in Adastra because of the stretch drive completion, or getting kicked out by his family to do something useful, because, you know, he's a low light. I mean, he's got a low status. I mean, he's got to get that good credit score. This is where Virginia will invite him to stay at the palace. Adastra time is also very different from Earth's. It takes 19 hours for Adastra to make a full rotation, unlike Earth's 24-hour rotation. The story moves along very smoothly, making sure to explain everything to you in spans of weeks and months, so you are quick to jump into the juicy detail, without much backstory. It's to the point and easy for readers to stay on track for the next new experience. Now, I didn't like the idea of being stuck in Adastra for a long period of time when we could have squeezed all these trials into months and left Adastra within the 3rd month, and it wouldn't have made much of a difference. It really only explains it in like blah blah blue blue blah blah 1 year later blah blah blue blue blah blah, and you're like, wait a minute, what? So if you didn't notice the large skips in time and thought it happened within just a few months, it's literally probably because the story is mostly spent within this palace. There's like hardly any character interaction, so 70% of the story is just here. The 3 trials Amicus must do to become emperor are: first, a dance contest, which is more of a play; second, a speech; and last, a fight. Macro and Amicus will lose the dance contest because they suck. Later, Macro will walk in on Amicus and Nefersu. Nefersu will explain himself for your understanding of the situation to make you a citizen of the Chemian. Nefersu will then push you back to Amicus to make amends over the situation before the big speech. And that's one hell of an apology he gives, because whatever came out of his mouth was better than mine. Amicus wins the speech, and Macro visits Adastra with the boys, only for you to get sick and die and, maybe give everyone else COVID because you're in a new world. You'll see the parents, and then they'll talk about stuff, and you'll wake up at Adastra to, have fun with Pineapple with the big Wolfie. But then Cato will break into the room to lock Amicus into the dungeon and elect Cassius as the emperor without the third trial being official. I believe you also tase Cassius and Cato so they set the hospital. And then there's like a whole uproar in Adastra because they're like, bruh. Virginia's like, oh, Macro, what's going on? They're at the hospital, this whole mess. And then you're just like, they looked at me funny, so yeah, self-defense. After the next day, Cato arrives back to the Empire to have a little feast poisoning Cassius to gain back control. But you'll soon later find out that Nefarious is going to be killed when you meet up with Alex, whom he will help you get Amicus out of the dungeon to challenge Cato. Only for Amicus to, find out he sucks at fighting. Oh, help me God, I'll do it myself. Finishing up the scene, Amicus soon becomes the Emperor of the Wolves, though you are still stuck with the Husbo for another 9 months before returning to Earth, only to have sold your soul to the primates because you died during the final battle, but you are brought back to life, and you'll have to work on getting your species to join the galaxies for another 8 years before returning back to Adastra to marry the big Husbo and live happily ever after. And yeah, that pretty much sums up Adastra. Now, I know this story sounds terrible, but it's actually pretty good. There are a few cute parts where you get to teach Amicus how to swim, but very rarely did the human teach his part of the culture. If you're looking for a simple, clear, and to-the-point read that you don't have to wrap your head around such complex and confusing plots that get boring, then this is the story for you. But hey, you guys let me know down in the comments below.
Oh my gosh, Adastra's a very bad novel, and here's 24 reasons why. Number 1, furry.